board and let some folks in here. Thank you all for attending this morning. I really appreciate your interest and enthusiasm about this topic. I think we can overuse polling, but there's always something new to discover. I hope that I will, when I go to one of these things, I think if I can take away one useful element or idea, then it's probably worth my time, and I hope I give at least that to you all. I'm Chris Daniel. I'm a faculty professional development manager for the Instructional Design Center in the Office of eCampus, which is our online campus sort of programming. And I call this quick polling particular. So I'm going to discuss 4 types of tools that we see in polling. There are dozens. So if you don't like these, find another one and let's get together and figure out how to use it. I'm sort of going from ease of use to a little bit more complex. The one caveat is that 3 of the 4 have some freemium model. So I mean, that's the big catch when you get really into learning something. You get used to it, you start liking it, and it's a tease. Now they want you to pay, and or they go away or they get subsumed by another company. And so that's always the big caveat in, when we talk about instructional technology and these sorts of things. We got people filtering in, so I'll pause briefly as I let them in. So I'm going to start with PollMaker. PollMaker's really straightforward to use. I don't like easy versus hard because that's sort of in the eye of the beholder. I tend to think about it in terms of number of clicks that I have to do, or things I have to think about when I'm when I'm trying to use a new piece of technology. So it's straightforward to use, has a survey function I won't cover because this is about quick polling. The downside is it is fairly basic and it costs more per month than some of the other ones. So let's look at it real quick. It's poll-maker.com, and I will put that link in the text if you want to just mess around. Now, if you get too far into this, it'll ask you to create an account to actually save this poll. So you can see if you go to poll-maker.com, you type your question. You're not even being asked to log in at this point. You can just type your basic question in here. You can put the answers here. You can also link a picture if you like. And if you don't have a picture that you want to upload from a file or from a web address, you can search and use the power of Giphy. Let's see if there's anything for EKU. Probably not. That would be a big stretch, but maybe Kentucky. There are several. Let's see. We get the ubiquitous bourbon barrels. So that's how you create your basic poll, and there are different security settings. And once you create poll, it's going to ask you to log in. I've already done that step. So I'm going to go to the dashboard and offer you my poll here. What's your favorite mascot? And I put one of these mascots. I put the North Carolina mascot in for Tim Matthews, but Tim Matthews didn't show up even though he registered. So he'll have to watch the recording to see how I pay tribute to him. So in any event, if I'm in the dashboard, I can go and manipulate these. I found a wildcat and the kernel. I just downloaded those pictures onto my computer and then uploaded them there. And then to share that with you all, I'm just going to go to the share tab, copy the link, and I'll paste that link in the text, in the chat. So you can click on that. And that's kind of this is sort of a pain in a way. Let me show you how I get around, one of the ways I get around this URL thing. I go to QR code monkey. I'll post that in the chat too. QR code -monkey. And then if I just paste an address there, you'll see that if you want to scan that with your phone, that is an automatic QR code generator. And you can just take a screen grab of that, or you can click, you can opt to save that QR code as a SVG, PDF, or EPS. That's an encapsulated PostScript. That's a lossless file, which means you can bring that up great big. I'll give you a chance to take a picture of that if you like. So that's how I get like if I'm using Google Forms And even if I shorten the URL, it's still a bulky thing to kind of give to students. And a lot of them are going to want to use their phones anyway, whether we're doing it live, virtual or asynchronous. You can still give that QR code there. You can paste that a lot of different places. And so let's go back to our poll. And let's look at, I'm going to go back to the dashboard, and so I've got 3 responses already. See, there's my favorite mascot. And then if I want to go to the results field, notice I just hover over this results column. And so we're evenly split. We've got some UNC fan. Tim Matthews will be thrilled that somebody voted for Ramses. And you can also get more information with the paid version. I don't know if it's, we don't get geographical breakdown unless we pay. We get timeline for free. We get a pie chart for free. I could make comments on this. I could share the results with it. Let's share the results. Here's the results. And who are our voters? So look, this is kind of cool. We can tell we have an iPhone, we have an Android, we have another iPhone. So we could also get data about, what kinds of devices are we looking at? What operating systems are the devices running? I don't know that any of us would necessarily care about that, but there may be some situation where you care about that. So that's PollMaker in a nutshell. Really simple to use, straightforward in terms of number of steps. Here's the problem. If you want to use this like with unlimited polls and a lot of responses a month, it's $40 a month if you pay annually. So that's kind of, that's like, to me, that's a lot, like $40 a month. That's half of what I pay for my high-speed internet. So I don't think that makes sense to me, even though they're saying Amazon, Men's Health, Weebly, Tumblr, all use these. I think I'd keep it basic and use the free version and maybe be happy. I don't know how many questions you're going to want to ask your students per session anyway. If you keep it to 1 to 3, all of these things that I'm going to show you, I think are going to work fairly well. Any questions about this? I reserve the right not to know anything. I'm having trouble keeping all the steps for these things in my mind. So we'll see how good it goes here in about 20 minutes. Questions
so
about
Chris, I voted, and I'm curious if I were a student in an asynchronous class and I vote, then I'll get the results when it's all done, or do I get the votes immediately? If I'm the first one to vote, do I only get my vote?
Real time. So if you keep this up, if somebody votes tonight, you're going to get that, and it's going to stay until you shut it down. Oh, and I think one of the caveats here with this service is you don't have an elegant way of locking this. So let's say some nice student decided to share this poll on Reddit and say, hey, bomb this poll, then you're going to get, goofy results. So just keep those types of things in mind. I don't think we're doing anything that's super high stakes with live polling anyway.
No,
but maybe somebody is. Now there's a survey feature. I haven't explored it a whole lot, but that may be something you might want to lock down a little more. Corey, I don't know. I don't think EKU has a Kahoot account. I need to check on that. And I know people use that all the time. I have not been a user of it, so I'll check on that and get back with you. So this is PollMaker. Let us move on. So Mentimeter, I think we're moving up slightly on the complexity scale, but we're also moving up on the feature-rich scale. I see this as it's very popular in a lot of the conferences, virtual conferences I've attended in the last year. People are using it quite a bit. It uses a slide modality. So when you go into the application itself, you will deal with slides. You'll create slides. Now, the downside is you only get two questions, basically. If you want to import your slides into Mentimeter, now that's a paid tier. So if you just want to ask a couple questions and you can get some robust question building here and different types of questions, not just multiple choice, I think you may like that. Certainly you should explore it. So let's go into Mentimeter right now. And you could go to mentimeter.com, and I'll post that link in the chat here. For some reason, I defaulted to everybody waiting, so that's weird. There's mentimeter.com, and then I'm just going to go into my presentations. Now, if you start trying to interact with the system, it's going to ask you to log in, link your account. I typically have one browser dedicated to all my EKU stuff, and so I could just log in and attach that to my EKU email address. So I'm going to go to my presentations. And so the lingua franca, if you will, of Mentimeter are slides. So I did two. I did gather feedback on exams or the fifth food group. Let's do the fifth food group. So I can have different, I can have two slides because I'm on the free version. And I decided to make a slide type word cloud. Notice you have a choice of multiple choice, word cloud, open-ended, scales, ranking, question and answer. And then there's some quiz options as well. But I just did a word cloud. And then my second slide was just a basic ranking, first item, second item, third item, fourth item. So let me go ahead and open that up to you all by hitting present. And you'll notice you've seen a lot of software, if you've looked around at software in the last couple of years, that it all kind of is PowerPoint-esque. And I think they do that because most people are familiar with PowerPoint. So I'm going to hit present. When I do that, you can go to menti.com. Menti, and this is the downside for me too. Like if I'm trying to do something really quick and I tell students go to menti.com and enter this 8-digit code, that's kind of some overhead. To me, that's one of the downsides. It's a beautiful little tool. So you can go to menti.com, menti.com. Let me put it in the chat there for you. And then enter 1391 535632. Sorry. I won't say I'm dyslexic because I don't know, but sometimes I look at something and maybe that's just all middle age. I just look at something and I want to say something else for some reason. So now as you respond, there you go. Oh, Cheetos, yeah, especially spicy Cheetos. So as you all enter, you'll see that pops up in real time. And I think that's a beautiful, so this Kelly's probably not, this particular question's more geared to synchronous sessions, obviously, but you could do a polling question that could endure there, that could stay up for a while. And so, but it's a beautiful little tool and it looks nice. And I added the pizza image from their repository of I guess, Creative Commons images, royalty-free images. There we go. And I also allowed the ability to enter more than one word or phrase. And that's another thing that you have some control over. So to me, it's a beautiful little way to, yeah, it looks nice. I think that if you wanted to spend, I think the first paid tier is $11 a month. And, I think that's probably, for me, that might be worth $11 a month. I can't see, where's the pricing? May have to go back, upgrade. Yeah, $12 a month, the $11.99. They always get you with the 99, don't they? So free, unlimited audience, unlimited presentations, but only 2 question slides. And you can't import your slides unless you are at the $12 a month tier. Now, would you get $12 a month out of this? Maybe, I don't know. Any questions about Mentimeter? One other thing I should mention too, another wrinkle is I don't know what the volunteer accessibility information is for these tools. So I can't promise that each of these is going to have a high degree of accessibility. So that's something to watch out for. Corey, it may have just, sometimes these can pause. Let me see if yours shows up here. So Leah said, so the bigger the words, the more responses are alike with Menti. I would imagine so. Yeah, if you choose a word cloud, as Kelly said, that's probably how that's gonna go. The larger the word, the more people cued in on that word. And that may also explain, Corey, why you may not have seen your response show up unless you did something, a unique word, or maybe entered it in a couple of times. There may be a threshold for how many times that word or phrase needs to show up before it's displayed on the screen. Okay, moving right along to Slido. I like Slido the best. It has the most overhead. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. It is slide-based delivery, and it works with the slides that you have. I'm going to show the integration with Google Slides, but it also works with PowerPoint, and it works with Microsoft Teams, and it works with something else. And those the Teams integration is fair, as I understand, it's fairly new. It also gives the ability to have a question and answer channel. So if you're not connected in, for example, if you're not connected like with Zoom, where people can type in a text chat, you can have people ask questions sort of outside of any other connective technology. So let me show it. And one interesting thing is they do event-based presentations. So if I go to sign up or log in, and I can create a series of meeting entities, and these meetings are what are used to arrange the questions and deliver the questions. So I'm just going to go into a meeting that I've already created, and I have two questions here, and so I could create another poll within this question list. And my two questions are: what's your favorite meal of the day? And then a word cloud poll: what's the best thing about online teaching? And I could go ahead and create additional poll items, and they would be displayed here. Now I can go ahead and hit present, and don't respond quite yet, because I want to show this other functionality. But if I hit present, then it would just take my two slides, and notice it embeds a QR code. You can go ahead and present if you want. It's not, or respond if you want. It's not that big a deal. And it gives me some controls here. So if somebody submitted a question and answer, which you can do once you log into this Slido, then it will display that in another window here. And I can go back to the poll. But what I think is a particular strength of this software, I'm gonna close out of this just for a second. Yeah, go ahead and type. That's fine. We'll wait on you guys before I move on.
Chris, this is a ignorant question, but if my students are sitting in a classroom and I have this up on a PowerPoint or slides, can their phone see from way in the back of the room the QR code?
Yeah, it's a good question. Unless they're very, very far back, it should work. And what I might do, here's a little trick that if you want to get out ahead of that, and it's an extra set of steps, it's kind of a pain. Well, it's not going to let me do that here. It's not going to let me. I was going to try to focus in on that and then do a screen grab of that. But yeah, if they can't, then they'll have to go to slido.com and enter that code, which,
Okay.
it's just cumbersome. If you're not going to leave the slide up more than 2 minutes, I said 2 to 3 minutes, it's hard for them to get in. I've been in these live presentations where they only leave the slide up 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and I'm pretty fast on these things typically, or at least I think I am, and it's too fast for me. So I think that it would be difficult for the student. Let me show you the particular strength of this tool, and I'm going to go back to, now you have to install a plugin, and I don't want to show those steps exactly, but it's not a big deal. But once you install the plugin, I've installed it in my Google Slides. And if I go to add-ons and Slido for Google Slides, and then open the sidebar, and it's going to take a second to work. And this works as part of the free version, which I think is very impressive. When I click present with Slido, I can also create a new one for this presentation. When I click present with Slido, it's going to load these slides here. So all I have to do is scroll all the way back up to the beginning of my presentation. And I'm going to click the little, click the mouse just above the first slide. So I see that orange line. And when I click present with Slido, it's going to take us right through the presentation. At the end, I have some Slido slides that are already embedded, and that tells Slido to go ahead and serve those questions up. So let's go ahead and try it. So I'm going to say present with Slido. I don't have it full screen just so you all can differentiate. But now I can see your Q&A. I've got my slides, and if I go ahead and move on through the presentation, there's Slido again. And here's the last one. People like second breakfast. I can't imagine. Either you like Lord of the Rings or you like second breakfast or you like both. So it's kind of a neat tool. A little bit of overhead to use it, but let's see what I want to. It seemed like the tiers were not awful terrible in terms of price. Yeah, $12 a month, one user, up to 200 participants, as many polls and quizzes as you want. So, if I were in a live class, if I had a 4.4 load and I used this a lot, it's not a terrible price, or maybe your chair will pick it up. Of course, they would love people to, take the enterprise level and have multiple people. Any questions about these? I know I'm going through these quickly, but also want time for you all to share your observations and questions and that sort of thing. All right, let's move on to Google Forms. And the benefits is that it's free. Lots of people have used Google Forms in different ways. I hope to show you a couple of interesting little wrinkles. It's also free. The cons is it's free like a puppy, right? So it's free, but there's overhead involved there, and you're going to have to massage how things work to get it to do instant polling. So let's have a look here. So first of all, I connect everything that I do to my EKU Google Drive, and I'm logged in by going to drive.google.com, and I put in my EKU email address and provided my EKU password. And so that sort of links my EKU life with Google Drive. If I'm using it for personal, I use another browser. I use the Chrome browser for all my personal G Drive stuff. I don't like to mingle them because I generate, as many of you do, dozens and dozens of documents a year, and it's just easier for me to separate it out like that. You use Google Forms for attendance and faculty senate. So that's, you already know one, potential web application of that, which is good, Aaron. So if I go to PD, and then I've got everything kind of dumped in this polling folder. And the first thing I'll do is show you my favorite meal form here. And if I go to preview, this is what you all should see when you see it. It's a basic poll. What's your favorite meal of the day? And I should have titled this question, but I didn't. So I'm going to get out of that. And so I could, in order to share it, I could hit send, and I could get a link, and I could shorten that link, and I could copy that and put it in the text chat, which I just did. Or I could go back to QR code monkey. I've already done that. And one way to get around this limitation is to just go ahead and pre-create that QR code, which you all could scan now if you wanted to. So this is not going to be nearly as robust and fully functional as some of these paid tools, but it's free. And so let's go back to favorite meal, and let me show you. I've got responses. If you want that charty real-time response functionality, you're in the Google form, and just notice that as an editor, you can just go to responses and you're going to go ahead and get a very basic pie chart, but a pie chart nonetheless, and that's real time. Also, Kelly, this is something you could use, you could just use and leave up for a week. And the likelihood of somebody wandering into this is not very high. Usually that sort of thing. In fact, they're looking at Zoom bombing in higher ed. They believe most of that was inside stuff. So some student that was a smart aleck decided to send that, that Zoom link somewhere, and then, some fool came in. And Kelly's right. You can restrict responses to EKU people only, which is a nice touch. One other thing that you might be interested to do is to do live peer review. So let's say a student is doing they're doing a presentation, and you would like student feedback while you're moving forward in your live class. One thing I like to do is, so I have a peer evaluation form that I've already created. And one thing that so you can create that however you like. I go over to responses and I click the spreadsheet icon here. And then that's going to create a spreadsheet. It does that automatically. So there it is. And now I'm going to go back and let's say we want to make this Bob. This is Bob's peer evaluation. I'm going to go ahead and share that out. Which is great. So you can respond to that if you like. But let's say I want to make several of these and I need to do them on the fly. So all I have to do is click the three arrows icon in the upper right corner of the screen. Go to make a copy. There's a copy of peer evaluation, Bob. Let me do it again. Make a copy. Takes just a second. Now I'm going to click both of these, make more copies. So now these are all different links, but I can very quickly have a Google form for each of the peer evaluations that we're going to do today. I can also, so quickly rename them. Go to responses, and I can link this one to an existing spreadsheet. I can link it to the same spreadsheet that Bob's peer evaluation was in. So when I do that, I'll just hit select and make sure I find in my Google Docs the peer evals spreadsheet. So let me send this one out to you for Suzanne. Yeah, I see, Kelly, the librarians, it's hard to beat their knowledge base. So if I find one little thing that I can show you all, then I'm very happy, because as many of you do, you all deal with different questions and situations, but it seems like the library gets everything because they deal with so many students from all the disciplines. So let me show you what it looks like if y'all would care to respond to those. So if we go into the peer evals document, this is represented by different tabs. Now there's probably a programmatic way you could use Excel like functions to aggregate that into a single spreadsheet. So what it gives you essentially, and I've done this before, so you'll see different tabs in here. Let's see, here's Bob's responses, and I probably need to rename that Bob. Get rid of this one. Oh, it's linked to something. Okay, there we go. It's linked to a form that I've already created, so I'd have to get rid of the form first, and then I could get rid of that tab. But if you do this all fresh and you set up your questions exactly like you want them, create that spreadsheet first, and then start copying the forms, and then tie them to spreadsheet, it will work better. Don't play around like I did last night and then try to use the same thing. But that's how this works. And we do this type of peer eval in some of the things we do over here for our like our PD2 course at the end. We used to have a presentation day, and we found that people like to give and receive that feedback from their peers. And so that's just an easy way to collect that in one spreadsheet, so we're not kind of messing around trying to create 15 different spreadsheets. But the nice thing is all those can be served up very quickly. And I don't know that I would do QR codes for each of those, but I would create those short links and paste them in the text chat or serve them somewhere if you wanted to work ahead. And you could even give somebody there, like if we were to share this one, I could create another Google Doc. And you all know how to do that, highlight and then click the link icon, and then you can serve all those on a single sheet that you shared with everybody in advance. And that just makes housekeeping a little tidier.
And then you can share the results with this, like if it was a group presentation, you could share it with just that group to say, here's what everybody else thought.
Exactly.
That's great.
So maybe one of the fastest presentations I've done is, as I'm very long-winded, but I hope this will give some idea about what's possible. Please explore these tools. What are your questions and comments, and how have you used polling in the past? How's that been successful? What opportunities are you looking for relative to using a tool like this in your courses?
I'm looking for more engagement in an asynchronous class. That was my goal.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think getting them to do something and then getting them to reflect on that in a quick way, without being too superficial, I think can be meaningful. For something like that, I may use a Google poll. One thing I like to always know, I can take you into, maybe I can do this without sharing student information. But at the end of every weekly module, I give them a quick, 2 or 3 question survey. I do it through Qualtrics, but it's, how hard was this? How mentally demanding was the unit? What is your level of satisfaction with the unit? And what went well? What could have gone better? And so, like in Qualtrics, what I do is the setup on this is kind of I won't say it's painful, but it takes quite a bit more time. I wasn't going to show what I do in Qualtrics, but so if I go into I have these in projects for my IDL 812 class, and so I have 5 responses already, and the questions that I ask are basically, how mentally demanding was the unit? And I have a little this is a question type called the graphic slider, and I decided to use this little look. How satisfied are you with the unit? And that's also another graphic slider that just happens to be smiley face, frowny face. And what went well this week? What could have gone better? And I find that I have a great reflection in my module 2. Let me see if I can pull that back up. There's one. So I go to the results. The other thing about Qualtrics is you could go brew coffee sometimes in the time it takes to give you some output. But if we go down here to the open-ended responses, and I only have 7 students in this course, so take that with a grain of salt. So this person's really reflecting on the unit and kind of, what were their own feelings and their own sort of self-described limitations relative to what was going on this week. But it's a great way for me to take the pulse of my class. I know that doesn't exactly answer your specific question about engagement. But, I think if you have them do something and reflect in a meaningful way on what they've done and give them the opportunity to be open and voice their opinions, their concerns, what they think maybe they would change if they were the instructor in the class. I think that's, to me, the more open I am, the more feedback I seem to get.
That's great. Yeah, you could ask what questions they still have at the end and be able to go feedback some stuff to them too. If something flopped and you're like, oh, nobody got that.
Yeah. And I've done sort of that. Like I've just responded to this question. To me, the point in a lot of graduate education is to take the time. You're reading and you're writing a lot in a lot of our programs, at that level. And so it's about, what did you do with the information? How did you reflect on it? How do you plan to apply it to your future and to the current instructional situation? Corey Qualtrics it's a very broad-based survey, polling sort of, and stats analysis tool. It goes real deep, and I don't pretend to have the expertise or the time to do in-depth training on it. But if it's something you're interested in, you can access it through. There's a link at the IRB or Institutional Research webpage. If you just do a Google search for EKU Qualtrics. Yeah, you go to Institutional Research, and then you get this link. You can log in with your EKU email username and password and start messing around.
They've made it a lot more drag and drop, and it's a lot easier than when I first used it 20 years ago.
Yes.
It's much more friendly, but it's
absolutely.
And the ability.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
If you're collecting a lot of data or you want to do a full survey, it's really great because you can download the data into Excel and play with it.
And they have some assistive tools relative to, does the artificial intelligence think that this is a good question? What would you change? I think if you
your
go,
survey's too long.
Survey's too questions. They're all too long. They all have too many questions. And so even though I have 3 questions, it ranked it fair, probably because this is a graphic. And there may not be good assistive ways to help people with sort of audiovisual challenges to move that slider. That could be the reason.
Chris, presumably the data that's stored in here is pretty well protected too, in terms of like if we want to keep something really private.
Great question. Yeah, great response. Yeah, that's one of the benefits to these. That I would never use this for a quick poll because it's too slow. But yeah, I mean, if you want longer form questionnaires, and if you want to be security minded, this is certainly a better way to go. At least there's plausible deniability. If I throw out a Google form and tell everybody to put their life story, part of their social security number, all the things that we shouldn't be collecting in a public manner, and I host that, and then it gets breached, then that at least makes me look bad. I don't know if I'm going to, I can't get sued for what I don't have, but at least makes us look like we're, less professional than we ought to be. More questions, comments? You all have lots of experience I don't have, so please share.
Chris, are you still wanting me to talk about Pear Deck today?
Absolutely. Go ahead. Hey,
Okay.
I'll give Hagen Burns the floor. Sorry about that. I should have. Hagen is a relative expert with another tool that I'd like for you all to see. And you should have hit me over the head with something, because
Sorry, I was a few minutes
my
late
weakness.
this evening and you were going, so
That's right. I was going.
It says you've disabled screen sharing.
I will. Let me make you co-host, and then I will stop the share. And now Hagen, take it away. Hagen Burns, instructional designer for the IDC.
All right, yeah, so I'm new ish. I'm almost 2 months in here, so I don't know most of you, don't know if I know any of you actually. But like Chris said, I work in the IDC as an instructional designer. But before that, my experience is teaching. I taught high school English for 4 years. So I use a lot of these tools in online learning, but also in in-person learning. So what I wanted to show you guys today is called Pear Deck. So you'll see kind of the little symbol here. One of the downfalls is it only works in Google Slides. So if you are somebody that only uses PowerPoint, you're not going to be able to use it, but you can easily convert a PowerPoint into a Google Slides. And then you can work with Pear Deck. So to get access to this, you are going to go to add-ons, and then you're probably not going to have this on here. If you've never used it, you'll just have get add-ons. And so you'll click that and you'll search for Pear Deck. But then once you have that add-on, you can open the Pear Deck add-on. And it's kind of similar to the Mentimeter that Chris was talking about. Sorry, that's my insulin pump going crazy. And then you'll see over here, you've got the add-on. So you've got a template library, which has kind of pre-made stuff, or you can do your own stuff, which I would suggest. And basically this allows you to ask students questions. They can do text, multiple choice, numbers, websites, they can draw, they can drag. And you can do this really two ways. So the first is if you are doing a live class, whether it's in person or on Zoom, you can give them a link or a QR code. They can join the lesson, they can answer the questions live, and then you are in charge of timing those questions. So the question will be linked to the slide. Whatever slide you're talking them through, they're only able to access that slide. You can do this asynchronously as well. So to do that, you would just click student paced activity. And so if it's student paced, you would just post the link in Blackboard or wherever it is you're working. And then the students will access that on their own time, but they'll still have the questions pop up. It's essentially a way to make a PowerPoint interactive. But I'll just show you an example. This is one that I pulled that they had already made. It's kind of about Juneteenth. You'll notice some of the images are a little bit more younger based, but you can go in and edit all of that to your liking. But here's an example of like a Pear Deck slide. So what are some things you already know about the end of slavery in the United States? And so then on the student end, this is what they're going to see on their screen. So they'll still have the slide, but then they'll have options. So this one has a draw feature. They can click on that little text to type in their answers. There's an eraser. So this is what the students will see. So that's one type of question you can add. You could also do something like this, like a yes or no or a true or false. And then if you add in that, the students will see this. They'll have a little icon, and then they'll just drag that over to yes or to no. You can also do videos, which I think this is really cool. And the students will see the video automatically embedded on their screen. So then they've still got the PowerPoint slide or the Google slide over here, but then they've got the video pop up immediately. And so then you can also do written responses. So this would be your slide, but the students would see this. They've got the slide, they've got to type in their answer. And again, if you're doing this live, they will not be able to move on from this screen until you move the PowerPoint on. So if it's live, but if it's a student self-paced, obviously they'll work through it on their own pace. This is another example of like a drag and drop. What state did Juneteenth originate? In the student view, again, they've got that icon. They'll drag it over wherever they think. Another example of a written response. So again, they see the slide on half the screen. Half the screen is where they type their answer. This is another draw slide. So this is kind of where they can be a little bit more creative. Multiple choice wasn't on this one, but you can use multiple choice questions. That will be a little bit quicker to see kind of their answers. But once you are finished with the lesson, you will get all the feedback of the participants. So you can see all of their answers, what they said. So it's a good way to make sure students are, actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. So a few ideas that I kind of had for when to use Pear Deck. Maybe you have like a PowerPoint that you really want to make sure students are viewing. You can put it on a Pear Deck, and then you can actually see, hey, which student actually went through and did this, which student didn't. If you just want to add something that's interactive, you can throw in a few just questions just to kind of make sure they're understanding the material. You could also do this kind of in place of a screencast lecture video with a PowerPoint. Instead of maybe talking through the slides, you could include those little questions to make sure, again, they're getting the information. You could do this during a synchronous Zoom meeting. to ensure that they are engaged. So instead of just kind of talking through your information on a Zoom meeting, you could have some interactivity and keep the students a little bit more engaged. Or if you just want to introduce something new, this is a good way to kind of do it. So that's all I have for Pear Deck. It's a pretty cool tool. It is free. I think there's a paid version, but honestly, I've never used it. I've never needed to. I think the free version pretty much covers everything. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, I've used this a lot. Again, some of the images are kind of, younger looking, but you can change those. So yeah, that's Pear Decks.
Thank you, Hagen. Aaron had a question about how you get that. That's just an add-ons inside of Google, and you have to register, but you just go to add-ons, get add-on, and then go to Pear Deck.
Yep, just this add-ons, and then
I don't see add-ons anywhere. I'm sorry. I get lost in it.
No,
Um,
I'm
open up
signed
a new.
in my EKU account.
Open up a new. Do you have a blank slide right now in Google Slides?
No, I have one I made open.
Yeah. Okay. Then, and you don't see beside tools add-ons. Might want to expand your screen, like totally maximize the screen.
Preferences. See accessibility. Huh. Oh, I see it. Thank you.
there's
Sorry.
actually a
Going
bunch
hunting.
of great add-ons too. This is just one, but if you use Google Slides, I mean, it's definitely worth it kind of going through the add-ons because there's some really cool stuff.
That's cool.
The big downside for all these, as far as I'm concerned, is like all of this assumes persistent connectivity to the internet. Of course, I know that live polling that just does, but I'm always nervous that I'm going to start one of these sessions and I'm going to go to my G drive and it's just going to be crickets. And then I have lots of anxiety. I shouldn't have maybe so much anxiety, but I have anxiety about that, folks.
You're a perfectionist.
So Chris, I'm going to go ask a segue question. What's the advantages to Canva over PowerPoint and Google Slides? I've never used it, but people are talking about it as being better than both of those.
I'm not a huge Canva user, but I will say it seems to be that they're going to have more resource, like digital assets, visual assets, the ability to create. Like if you were looking for a toss a coin icon and you do a natural search in, and Hagen, please weigh in, or Kelly even too. If you search for coin toss in PowerPoint, you may get 5 items or 10. In Canva, you're going to get more than you could shake a stick at or a broken mouse at. And so you're going to get more of those types of elements. Is that important to you? That's one question. You could also do short videos. So just using the resources that are available. Had a student make one as an intro to how to build a campfire. And so he found like a camping video where it focused in on the fire. And he was able to bring in his name and the title of the e-learning asset he was going to develop. And so with almost no camera, no real ability other than just using the program is necessary to make something really quick that looks good. Hagen, Kelly, anybody else?
Yeah, I was just going to say Canva is kind of just like a prettier version. You can make PowerPoints a little fancier, it kind of just dresses them up a little bit.
Okay, thanks.
Looks impressive, but it's real easy.
That's what we're getting into now. Like graphic designers, rightly so, are getting a little frustrated when somebody says, yeah, I do graphic design and it's all Canva stuff. That's not real. I mean, that's being maybe a good consumer of good graphic design, but it's definitely not, it's like somebody, I don't know what to compare it to, except, I know construction when they know who to hire to actually, put the roof on their house and that sort of thing. It's not the same thing. Thank you so much, Hagen. Appreciate that. And next time, get a longer virtual stick and hit me with it, because I go on autopilot with these things. It's like I lose an hour and I've said a bunch of stuff maybe.
Nah, that's okay. Thanks for asking me.
Any questions, comments, things you want to see, things, I reserve the right not to know anything.
Thanks for doing this, Chris. I appreciate it.
Well, please let
Now
me
I'll take
know.
ownership and say it was my idea.
Well, that's great. Let us know how we can help you in social work with some of that stuff. I've had the pleasure of meeting George Ashley, and so that's you're all doing good things over there, and I really appreciate you all being there and being there for our students, and the same with the rest of you all. Thank you for being there, supporting students. Let me know how we as a team in the IDC can support you. We have a fairly new website, and it's perpetually under construction at idc.eku.edu. And if you'll just one more bit of patience and attention, just want to show you all a couple things. If you go to, we've got a Twitter feed, doesn't work in Chrome for some weird reason, but our Twitter feed's every day. So please check that out at EKU IDC. You could also go under news and updates, upcoming events. And I'm trying to work out about a month in advance on some of the things we're offering. If you'd like to participate and put on one of these talks, Aaron, I still owe you a bunch of work with peer review. And I don't know what the heck happened to me. I'll make whatever excuse you like, but that's on me. We need to get that going again. We need to get that going again. But if you have something you want to contribute, please let me know and we'll get you on the calendar. Your peers want to hear from you all. I do some teaching. I have a doctorate, but it's not the same as being in the throes. I don't go up for tenure. I don't have all of that stuff to worry with. You know, peers want to hear from peers. And so if you have something you want to contribute, let's do it, and I'll support you in any way I can. We really want to be available to you all, and we appreciate your time today. So thank you so much for coming and participating.
Thank you for doing it. Very helpful.
Thank you.
We will talk.
Okay, sounds good, Aaron.
Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye, y'all. Thank you so much.